Good day, it is Althea from the Bible in 1 year. Today we spend time in Psalm 55, Fear and Fury to Faith and Peace. Whenever David faced difficulty, he would run to God in prayer. In prayer he dealt with the overwhelming emotions and raging thoughts until he finds peace. Psalm 55 has three distinct parts: fear, fury, and faith. In verses 1 and 2, David starts by stating he felt that God was distant. He finds himself at a place of great distress, and he needed to know that God was close by, knowing all that is going on in his life, listening to his call for help, and he needed God to answer him. He pours out his heart before the Lord. David's familiar friend, companion, helper, advisor, and counselor had turned against him. In anger, they persecuted him, to the point that David feared for his life, as we read in verses 3, 12 to 14, and 20 to 21. Dealing with the fearful thoughts, in verses 4 and 5, David describes what he is feeling in detail. Fear and trembling has come upon me. Horror has overwhelmed me. My heart is in anguish within me, and the terrors of death has fallen upon me. In verses 6 to 8, David describes his desire to flee from all of this anguish. If I had wings like a dove, I would fly away and be at rest. I would lodge in the peace of the wilderness. He longs back to the days as a shepherd boy, looking after sheep in the desert. Dealing with fury, he prayed that his enemies would be confused, that their schemes would be destroyed in verse 9. He goes on describing that this terror, violence, and strife in the city goes on day and night. He does not feel safe. The city has become a dangerous place. Pouring out the worst of his thoughts in verse 15, wishing death on his enemy. He dealt with the horrible thoughts, and he poured out his heart, overcome with fear before the Lord. Now he turns his prayer to what we know is the truth about the Lord God that he loves. From verses 16 onwards, he starts to declare his calm confidence in the Lord. I shall call upon God. He will save me. He will hear my voice. He has redeemed my lips in peace. Every evening, morning, and at noon, constantly seeking the Lord in prayer, he moves from fear and fury to faith. Let me quote G. Campbell Morgan. Fear leads only to the desire to flee. Fury only emphasizes the consciousness of the wrong. Faith alone creates courage. David knew that if he can find peace in the presence of the Lord, he can survive the hardest of time. Victory lies in peace. Verse 18 is a good instruction to us. Cast your burdens on the Lord, release it, and he will sustain and uphold you. It is not enough to cast your burden on the Lord. One needs to release it, leave it at the Lord's feet. Then he will sustain and uphold you. Peter experienced the same thing as he wrote in 1 Peter 5 verse 7. Casting all your cares, all your anxieties, all your worries, and all your concerns, once and for all on him. For he cares about you with deepest affection and watches over you very carefully. Paul also teaches this in Philippians 4 verse 6. Do not be anxious or worried about anything, but in everything, every circumstance and situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, continue to make your specific requests known to God. And the peace of God, that peace that reassures the heart, that peace which transcends all understanding, that peace which stands guard over your hearts and your minds is in Jesus Christ, is yours. David ends his prayer at peace, boldly and unwaveringly declares, I will trust in the Lord. Dealing with our overwhelming emotions and raging thoughts in the presence of our God, we too can move from fear and fury to faith and peace. May you be blessed. Goodbye.